Bruxelles avec les informations continues dans la partie. Nous sommes heureux de vous offrir un environnement non fumant. Les clients qui fument auront l'occasion à notre arrêt prévu à Port Ashburn. Nous vous remercions de votre collaboration.
Special Redor service to Sydney, Cape Breton. For the remainder of the day, we ask you to sit back and enjoy the scenery while we recount a little of the culture and history of Nova Scotia. Our journey begins as we depart Halifax, a significant port city since its founding in 1749. Today, Halifax is a thriving cosmopolitan city, combining fascinating historical landmarks, vibrant and varied entertainment, great shopping, and wonderful dining. As we roll by the outskirts of Halifax, we would like you to look at three things. First is the oddly shaped white building ahead, then the water, and finally the space between the bridges. Ahead of us, on the spit of land between the rail tracks and water, you'll see a round, white building with a domed roof. This is the music room at Princess Lodge. Princess Lodge is the location where Edward, Duke of Kent, built an estate in 1793. Edward was Queen Victoria's father. He was sent to the New World and was commander of the Halifax garrison, which gave him control of the military in the entire colony. He lived at Princess Lodge with his French companion, Julie Saint-Laurent. Here, they entertained in the lavish style of a royal prince and French aristocrat. Some books say Julie Saint-Laurent was a baroness, others a countess. Whatever her title, she and the prince believed in living well. All that remains on their estate now is the music room and a heart-shaped pond Edward had constructed to profess his love for Julie. The pond is in Ravine Park, just over the hill from the music room. Edward's round music room reflected his refinement and the architectural style of the time. Like enlightened men of this period, Edward was interested in the revival of classical architecture. That revival included round buildings, thus the music room is round. Edward also had a round church built. You can see it at North Street. There is the round Martello Tower in Point Pleasant Park. And on the lower slopes of Citadel Hill, you'll find the town clock, which is also round. Edward was also a stickler for punctuality, and that's why he built the clock. Now, the other story about round buildings is that superstitious people believed that the devil and evil spirits lurked in corners. A room without corners didn't provide a hiding place for evil spirits. And so a round building was good luck. Now to the water. Water is the reason Halifax was founded in 1749. The body of water we are currently passing is Bedford Basin. From the tip of the basin to the mouth of Halifax Harbour represents a distance of 35 kilometers. At its widest, the harbor is 3.2 kilometers wide and 76 meters deep, and it's ice-free. When the British Navy discovered this harbor, they immediately understood its strategic value. It was large enough to provide shelter for any size ship and could easily accommodate a fleet. The other reason Halifax was strategically important was its location. Halifax was close to Britain and to her 13 colonies along the eastern seaboard. The British felt that they needed to defend their 13 colonies, those same ones which rebelled in 1776 against the French in Quebec. France had built a mighty fortress at Louisbourg, just outside the city, to protect Quebec against the English colonies. To protect Halifax, the British built a defense system unlike the world had ever seen before. In total, 17 forts and gun batteries ringed the harbor islands, and harbor approaches, making it impossible for any enemy to attack either the town or ships at anchor. The center point of this defense system was the citadel on the hill overlooking the harbor. The stealth bomber of its time, this ingenious system represented the finest in imperial engineering. All of these defenses allowed fleets to lay safely at anchor in Bedford Basin. For over 250 years, this basin has been a staging ground for military convoys. Whether sending supplies or forming for war, the protected waters of Bedford Basin have played an important part in the defense of the colonies, then the Empire, and later the Commonwealth. Bedford Basin has been the staging area for fleets participating in the 7 Years' War, the American Revolution, the War of 1812, the Indian Mutiny, as well as the Crimean and Boer Wars. The blast treated these buildings like matchsticks and leveled everything on both sides of the harbor. The explosion totally destroyed 1 square mile of Halifax and Dartmouth. 700 homes, 3 schools, 4 churches, and 7 ships were immediately destroyed by the blast. 2,000 people were killed, 9,000 injured, 6,000 left homeless, and another 25,000 left without adequate shelter. The level of destruction was like nothing ever seen on the North American continent. It is in times of adversity that you learn who your friends are. Halifax learned that some of the area's best friends were located in what we call the Boston States. We have always had a close relationship with New England. When Boston heard of the disaster caused by the Halifax explosion, they immediately sent trainloads of aid, blankets, food, medical supplies, doctors, and nurses. It was a massive humanitarian effort. The rest of Canada also helped. But because of geography and a massive snowstorm right after the explosion, Boston's help was among the first to arrive. As Nova Scotia's ongoing remembrance of our friendship and as a thank you for the assistance in 1917, the people of Nova Scotia send a giant Christmas tree to the people of Massachusetts every year. So when you see the big Christmas tree lit up in Boston's Prudential Square every December, you'll know it's with the best wishes of the people of Nova Scotia. You can learn more about the Halifax explosion at the Citadel, Maritime Museum of the Atlantic, and Dartmouth Heritage Museum. certainement en grande pompe. La salle de musique ainsi qu'un temple du cœur aménagé par Édouard en gage de son amour pour Julie sont tous ceux qui subsistent de cela. L'étang se trouve sur un lit parc, tout juste au-dessus de la colline. La salle de musique ronde d'Édouard témoignait tant de son raffinement que du style architectural de l'époque. Comme bon nombre d'hommes éclairés de son temps, Édouard était vivement intéressé par la renaissance de l'architecture classique, dont les édifices ronds faisaient partie. Voilà pourquoi plusieurs des constructions qu'il fit ériger étaient de forme arrondie, soit la salle de musique, une église qu'on peut voir sur la rue Nord, la tour Martello dans le parc Point Pleasant et l'horloge de la ville située au bas de la colline de la Citadelle. Édouard avait en effet un engagement profond envers la ponctualité, ce qui le poussa à faire construire cette horloge. Toujours dans la même veine, on croyait à l'époque que le diable et ses démons aimaient se cacher dans les coins. Une pièce sans coin ne permettant pas aux mauvais esprits de s'y cacher, un édifice rond était donc gage de chance. Passons maintenant à l'eau, la principale raison pour laquelle on décida de fonder Halifax en 1749. Nous passons présentement au-dessus du bassin Bedford. Il faut compter 35 livres des bateaux de toute taille et même toute flotte. L'emplacement du port d'Halifax était un autre attrait stratégique important. Halifax était situé près de la Grande-Bretagne et de l'Empire britannique. C'était en quelque sorte le bombardier stealth de son temps. Toutes ces défenses permettaient aux flottes de se mettre à l'ancre dans le bassin Bedford, que ce soit pour acheminer des provisions ou pour former les soldats. Les eaux protégées du bassin Bedford jouèrent un rôle prédominant dans la défense des colonies, de l'Empire, puis du Commonwealth. Le bassin servit d'ailleurs de zone d'étape pour les convois militaires pendant plus de 250 ans, ainsi que pour les flottes qui prirent part à la guerre de 7 ans, à la guerre de l'indépendance américaine, à la guerre de 1812, à la rébellion indienne, ainsi qu'aux guerres de Crimée et des Boers. Durant les Premières et Deuxièmes Guerres mondiales, de grands convois de navires canadiens et américains utilisèrent aussi le bassin Bedford comme zone d'étape avant de partir pour l'Europe. Alors déchiré par la guerre, pour la ravitailler en entrée et en tournée. De plus, même si les filets anti-sous-marins installés à l'entrée du port gardaient les sous-marins allemands en marche, ils ne pouvaient pas les empêcher d'attaquer les convois durant la bataille de l'Atlantique, que Winston Churchill décrivit comme la bataille la plus décisive de la guerre. Selon Churchill, Halifax fut d'une importance capitale pour l'issue de la bataille. Vous pouvez en connaître davantage sur l'histoire d'Halifax et son importance militaire en visitant le musée maritime de l'Atlantique, la Citadelle, Admiralty House, le musée de l'Atlantique, et le navire canadien de Sa Majesté Sackville, la dernière des corvettes, ces petits navires qui protégeaient les convois durant leur traversée. Enfin, si vous regardez en direction des ponts, vous verrez que le port se rétrécit à un endroit qu'on appelle les Narrows, et où a eu l'explosion d'Halifax, des États de Boston. Nous avions toujours entretenu de bons rapports avec la Nouvelle-Angleterre. Dès que les autorités de la ville de Boston eurent vent du désastre qu'avait causé l'explosion d'Halifax, elles ne perdirent pas.
Says this is OCS to what, mile 14 or something?
These are two of the longest suspension bridges in the world and play a pivotal role in Halifax's booming economy by linking the Halifax Peninsula and darker sides of the harbour. Halifax Harbour is the world's second largest natural harbour and thus These bridges play an important role in changing the course of port development, as did earlier floating bridges in the late 1800s. All of these fell in accordance to the old Mi'kmaq Indian curse. According to the legend, during the late 1700s, a young Mi'kmaq Indian brave who lost his pretty bride to either a rival Indian or a local naval officer put a curse on the first 3 bridges across the Halifax Harbor, due to his rival's escape across the harbor near the Narrows of Halifax. Thus, it was called the Narrows Curse.
L'idée de ce formidable projet de construction était d'accélérer l'acheminement de marchandises entre les riches fermes agricoles situées autour de la Nouvelle-Fundy et Halifax. Le canal était donc un moyen plus rapide que le cheval et la charrette. Les autochtones de la Nouvelle-Écosse, jugeant qu'ils étaient les plus susceptibles de connaître les moyens les plus courts de traverser la province. On comprend pourquoi le canal était considéré à l'époque comme le plus important projet de construction en Amérique du Nord.